Hello and welcome to Dish Shelved with Adam White. This week I'm going under the banner of Michael K. Vaughan made me read it. Uh, this week is City by Clifford D. Samack. Um, it's really, I guess he says that it's his favorite science fiction book of all time, so I thought, well, I need to read it. It wasn't a hard sell because, number one, I love dogs. And talking dogs, yes, please. And two, I love robots. And three, I'm beginning to love Clifford D. Samack's writing because I did a video on Waystation that I really, really enjoyed. So it wasn't a hard sell. And I thought, well, I'll do it. And I was going to wait and do two at once like I did on the Criminale videos, but I just was excited about this one and wanted to go ahead and do it. Let me read you what it has about it on what it's about. Thousands of years have passed since humankind abandoned the city, first for the countryside, then for the stars, and ultimately for oblivion, leaving their most loyal companion animals alone on Earth. Granted the power of speech centuries earlier by the revered Bruce Webster, the intelligent pacifist dogs are the last keepers of human history, raising their pups with bedtime stories passed down through the generation of the lost Websters who gave them so much but will never return. With the aid of Jenkins, an ageless service robot, the dogs live in a world of harmony and peace. But now they face serious threats from their own and other dimensions, perhaps the most dangerous of all being the reawakened remnants of a warlike race called man. Now, that's a lot of what City is about, is the legacy of human beings. Uh, it kind of follows through thousands of years a family called the Websters and what they did and other ones did to advance humanity. And there was Jenkins, one of the first robots that served the Webster family, and he is a continuing thread throughout the entire book. The book itself is actually a series of short stories that all come together as a book, and they have in between them little, uh, almost like uh, commentary on the story itself, as if it was written by the dogs. So that was pretty cool. And it gave you a nice way to tie together all the stories that were in here. The second story, especially, I can't remember the names of all of them individually, but um, it's too hard to flip through the Kindle to figure it out. But um, the second story dealt a lot with one of the Websters who had agoraphobia, which is a fear of leaving home, and what that fear cost the human race because of something he needed to do and couldn't do. But I thought it was a really, really great telling of a story of someone that has a debilitating mental illness like that and the costs of it both to themselves and to others. And I thought it was just an excellent workup of that. And then in the fourth story, especially, you get a sense of what it means to be alien. Humans have developed this, they're on Jupiter, and in order to survive on Jupiter, which has a completely different environment than what Earth has, they had to be changed from human into these other uh, types of creatures that are on Jupiter that that they turn into so they can go out and then report back. Well, the problem is every time they go out, no one ever comes back. So all of them are just assumed dead. And uh, it comes down to this one man that's been sending them out and his dog go through it and become the creatures. And then it's, I don't want to give anything away, but suffice to say, in the fourth story especially, and it continues in the next one after it, you absolutely get the sense of what it is to be alien. Uh, I really thought he did a stupendous job of conveying that sense of alienness and what it meant and how it was different from being human, and whether that was good or bad. And all the stories have to do with the legacy of human beings and what is it do they pass on, is it good or bad. And they have, of course, the talking dogs. They, one of the Websters, Bruce I think it was, has a way he developed of allowing dogs to talk, and then he eventually comes up with like a contact lens type thing that allows them to read. And they don't have any hands still, so they give them robots to be their hands. And so the robots then tie in with that too, and they make the robots to serve humans too. And that's where Jenkins, the sort of he starts out as like a butler for the Websters, and he becomes essentially a main character throughout all of it, more as the years go on, because he's the one that's surviving because he's a robot and he doesn't die. And it just goes on about what uh, whether the humans should influence the dogs in their uh, evolution, because dogs have a totally different way of thinking about things than humans do. And as the number of dogs spread that could speak and read and evolve, humans had to kind of decide, should we interfere in this or not? And then something else occurs that I won't say what, that kind of takes humans out of the equation. And so dogs, after a certain point, think, and you get this from the very beginning in the little interlude things in between the stories. Um, Dogs don't know if humans even really existed or not, even though, even at a point where there were still a few around, they called them Websters instead of humans, because the name Webster had become so associated with them, with the human beings. And they really didn't know whether they were even ever real or not. And the dogs evolved then at their own pace, and um, eventually they bring in all the other animals, and they begin to be able to speak. And I lost my picture, but um, the other animals begin to speak. They eliminate killing, even for food. And but then you also then find out what that entails and what becomes of the animals when there's no population control, with a series like sort of the uh, pyramid of hierarchy of prey and predator. And just really fascinating, really looks deeply into what the legacy of humans is and what the legacy of other creatures are. Um, I think it would be awesome if we could make dogs talk. I'd love to hear my dog talk to me. Uh, but it shows the different tracks of what different animals become, or insects or anything, what they become when given a chance to evolve on their own. And is man's involvement in that a good thing or a bad thing? And what really is the legacy of man? He wrote this right after World War II, I think. So he had a real iffy opinion of what human beings bring to the table. Um, and it's really a fascinating look at a lot of philosophical questions to ask about, you know, the nature of human beings. Clifford D. Samac is becoming one of my favorite writers. I've only read a few things so far, but a long time ago I got a haul on eBay of his books, so I'm going to start going through them pretty soon here. And like I said, I already did Way Station, and that was excellent too. A lot of good stuff in that. Um, but I, like I said, it wasn't a hard sell, but I did see that Michael K. Vaughan really liked this book, and so I knew I had to read it because, like I said, it had all the stuff that I like in a book. So, um, thanks to him for getting me to read it, and I will have more. Michael K. Vaughan made me read it when I return, probably next week. Uh, I just am not sure yet what I'm going to read. I've got a few books that he has talked about that I try to do different stuff than other people on BookTube do, but I wanted to do a few things that I'd been inspired to read by other people. I did a couple on books that Criminali suggested, and then I've done this on Michael K. Vaughan, and I continue to do that probably next week. So, like I said, I was going to do it on more than one, but I knew I'd have plenty to say about this story because I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend you to read it and any of Clifford D. Samac's work. I may do some future video on just sort of a conglomeration of his stuff, and just to give you a taste of some of the things that he wrote other than this. But thank you for hanging out with me. Thanks to Michael K. Vaughan for the recommendation. And I will see you guys next week.